Hello everyone, my name is Shazib Tanvir, and in this video I will explain how to deal with a traffic police officer, how you can legally avoid to pay challan, and what are your rights and duties as a driver. Along with, I will also tell what to do when a police officer approaches you and asks you to produce the documents and you don't have the valid vehicle documents with you, or what to do when you don't have enough money to pay the challan on spot. All this is coming up, so stay tuned and make sure to watch till the end. Now, before moving further, let me just tell you, almost all the aspects of traffic laws in our country are governed by an act called Motor Vehicles Act. Now, this act provides various detailed provisions for various kind of traffic violation. It provides provisions for licensing authority. It also gives provisions for registration of your vehicles. It states various sections which defines the traffic violation and which connotes the exact fine for the traffic violation. It also states the powers and functions of state and as well as the enforcing authority. The Motor Vehicle Act was recently amended on 2019. Now, after the amendment of 2019, this act repealed few sections or also amended few sections. Most importantly, we are all aware that after the amendment of 2019, the fines for the violation of traffic, what we used to pay earlier, is much more higher now. That is 10 times more higher. For example, earlier, if we violate traffic rules by not wearing helmet, we have to pay a fine of rupees 100. Now we have to pay a fine of rupees 1000. Earlier, if we drive a motorcycle or any vehicle without a proper license, earlier the fine was 500. Now the fine is 10 times higher, that is 5000. Now let us see few of the common traffic violations for which the traffic officer or the traffic police officer usually cuts you a challan. Now, as per the Motor Vehicles Act, Section 3 of the Act says that it is absolute necessary to have a driving license whenever you are driving. If you don't possess a driving license, you will be fined under Section 181 of Motor Vehicles Act for rupees 5000, or you may as well have to face an imprisonment of 3 months. Section 196 of Motor Vehicles Act states that you must be having a valid insurance whenever you are driving the vehicle. If you're not having a valid insurance, you will face a fine of rupees 2000 or 3 months of imprisonment. Similarly, section 194D says that if you're not wearing a proper helmet, you will be fined for rupees 1000 or your license may be seized for 3 months. Section 194E says that if you fail to give passage to the emergency vehicle, that is, if you obstruct the way of the emergency vehicle, you will be fined rupees 10,000 or you may have to face an imprisonment of up to 6 months. Section 184 says that driving dangerously, and the fine for the same is rupees 1000 or 6 months of imprisonment. Section 186 states that drink and drive, the fine for the same is 10,000 rupees or 6 months of imprisonment. Now that we are done discussing common sections of Motor Vehicles Act, now let me come to the main topic of this video, that is what to do when you don't have any physical copies of your vehicle documents with you and you are stopped by a police officer. Now what generally happens is you are traveling from point A to point B and without having any physical document, that is, you don't have RC, you don't even have your license, you don't have insurance, you don't have any pollution certificate, and when you are stopped by a police officer, generally you pay the fine for not having the documents, or the worst, you try to bribe the officer in order to pay lesser sum of money. So now you don't have to do all those things, because on 17 December 2018, the Ministry of Road Transport and Highway issued a notification in which it is clearly mentioned that all these vehicle documents can be submitted through an electronic form. The license, RC, insurance, as well as your pollution certificate, You don't need to have a physical hard copy with you whenever you are driving. As per the notification has mentioned two apps, that is DigiLocker and M-Parivahan. These two apps are really a lifesaver for you. Once you are done watching this video, the very first thing you should do is go ahead and download this app if you haven't downloaded it yet. Why I'm insisting on downloading this app is this clearly is a benefit for any person, and it clearly a relief that you don't necessarily have to carry all the documents with you whenever you are driving. Whenever you are stopped by a traffic police officer, just show the app, and the traffic police officer has no authority to ask you to produce the original documents or produce the hard copy of the documents. The traffic police officer has no authority to question the originality of that document, because when you download the M-Parivahan, you will go through the registration process, and in that you just have to type your DL or your RC number. The app will automatically fetch the details of your RC, your insurance, your pollution certificate, your driving license. Now that I have answered the first question, and it is also possible that you are already aware of the answer, that is you can use the DigiLocker or M-Parivahan instead of the physical documents. Now let me create another situation where you're driving from point A to point B, and this time you don't have the physical copies of your RC, your insurance, or your pollution certificate, nor you have your mobile phone with you. At this moment, what will you do if you get stopped by a police officer? What if I tell you, even in this situation, you don't have to pay a single penny? Let me explain. As per section 130 of Motor Vehicles Act, it clearly states that the driver or the owner of the vehicle gets 15 days to submit the document to the concerned authority who is asking to produce such documents. Now, what that means is you don't have to stay there and pay the fine and move. You can just go ahead with the journey, and you have the period of 15 days to revert to the concerned police officer. Now you know that you have 15 days to produce your documents, and the next time you are traveling and you forget your physical documents or even your mobile phone, and a police officer stops you, all you have to do is convey this section 130 to him very politely and tell him that you have 15 days to produce the documents, and the police officer will provide you the addresses where you have to come and produce the documents within the period of 15 days. Now the section even tells that you don't necessarily have to go to the concerned address or a concerned police station. You can even send the attested copies of your original documents. Now, if you fail to produce the documents within 15 days, obviously the police officer will continue to file the challan, and you will have to pay the fine either online or in the court of law. At least out of all the sections present in the Motor Vehicles Act, I want you to remember these sections particularly. It will definitely help you whenever you are involved in any kind of situation like this. Now, let's move on to our next question, that is whether it is necessary to pay the challan on spot. Now that I'm speaking of challan, let me also tell you this. Not all the police officers have the right to collect fines from you. No officer below the rank of Assistant Sub-Inspector, that is ASI, can collect a fine from you. Only the officers such as ASI or his superior authorities such as Sub-Inspector or Inspector has the authority to collect the fines from you. Now the question is, how do you identify who is an Assistant Sub-Inspector, who is a Sub-Inspector, and who is an Inspector? It is simple. The one thing you can look for is the stars on the shoulder. 1 star means he is an Assistant Sub-Inspector. 2 star means he is a Sub-Inspector. 3 star means he is an Inspector. Now, the next time you stop by any police officer, now make sure to see the stars first and then proceed with providing your documents. Now let's come back to our main question, that is, Is it necessary to pay the challan on spot? Now, first of all, I would like to tell you this. If you have committed any visible offense, such as you're not wearing a helmet, you are talking to your phone while driving, you're not wearing a seat belt, you are jumping a red light, you are driving dangerously, or any visible offenses for which the traffic police officer stops you and levies a fine on you, if you have the money, pay the fine right away, be a good citizen, and just get it done with the fine. Of course, if you don't have the amount or if you don't have the money to pay the challan on spot, you can of course say to the police officer that you don't have the money to pay on spot and you will pay the challan online. Now what happens nowadays is right after you say that you will pay the challan online, the police officer will say, yeah, I have phone pay, Paytm, GPay, everything. You can pay it via these platforms. Now I'm telling you, if you have money, pay the fine, and if you know that you have committed an offense, you are in the violation of traffic laws, pay the fine right away and just go ahead. If you don't have the money, you don't have to pay the fine on spot. The traffic police officer can generate a e-Challan. Now that e-Challan will be communicated to you via SMS. That is, the owner of the vehicle will receive a message on his registered mobile number, and there will be a link over there, and he can just click to that link and it will take him to a portal where he can see the fine and he can see the violation for which the fine is generated, and he can pay the fine right away. Now why I'm recommending you to pay the fine right away, because usually we tend to forget to check our messages, and if the fine is still pending on the portal, there are chances that the court will summon you to pay the fine. And even if you don't acknowledge the court summon, the court can also issue a warrant. So to be safe, when you know that you have committed an offense under the Motor Vehicle Act, just pay the fine right away. And in case of not having the cash, just make sure you check your SMS and pay the fine as soon as possible. So this answers your question that you don't have to pay the fine on spot. You always have an option to pay the fine online, or in worst case scenario, you can even pay the fine in courts. We have discussed about challans. We have discussed about various sections of Motor Vehicles Act. We also discussed about M-Parivahan and DigiLocker and all. Now let us discuss another main question of this topic, that is how to deal with the traffic police officer. Now, first of all, you should make sure that if you are in violation, it is very right to step up and just pay the fine right away. There is no use of arguing when you are in the wrong side. You should never argue when you know that you are wrong. You should be a law-abiding citizen and pay the fine for the violation. Now we all know that things can get really ugly really quick when the argument starts between you and a police officer. Now what you have to do is, whenever a situation like this arises, first of all, you should be polite. Whatever the thing you want to convey, just convey it in a polite manner, because if you argue like a madman, if you argue or if you raise your voice or if you just try to show your power, let me tell you, the Motor Vehicles Act gives some powers to the police officers as well. For example, section 179 of the Motor Vehicles Act states that if you disobey or obstruct any police officer in performing his duty, he shall fine you 2,000 rupees or may lead to imprisonment of 1 month. Section 202 of Motor Vehicle Act empowers the traffic police officer to arrest you without warrant if you have committed an offense under section 184, that is dangerous driving, or 185, that is drink and drive, or 197, that is driving a vehicle without the authority. And under section 206, the Motor Vehicles Act gives power to the police officer to impound your document. The police officer can seize your document if he believes that the document which you are showing to him it's fake, or if he believes that you may abscond or will not appear even after summons are issued. Now remember, if this thing happens to you, the police officer, after seizing your document, it is mandatory for him to provide you with a temporary acknowledgement, and you can use that acknowledgement till you get your original license back from the court. Now, under section 207 of Motor Vehicles Act empowers the police officer to detain your vehicle. Now you can understand that even police officers have so many powers under the act. If you try to argue in a way that which obstructs him to perform his duty, or if you disobey his orders, if you're not polite enough, if you argue like a madman, if you try to show your power, the police officers got the rights or got the powers from the Motor Vehicles Act, as well as he can book you in IPC as well for creating an obstruction in performance of his duty. Now you are aware that the police officers can use their powers against you. But the question is, what if such police officers use their powers or use their positions to unnecessarily harass you? And what if they unnecessarily file a challan against you? Then you should fight for your right, but not on the roads. First and foremost, what you have to do against such harassment and irregularities is that you must create evidence. Whenever you find yourself in such a situation that the police officer is harassing you, is using his powers to dominate your rights, the very first thing you should do is take out your phone and start recording. Now again, people have questions that can we record the officers on duty? Of course you can. You can record the officer on duty. You are not recording his private life. He is an on duty officer and you are recording the video for evidence purposes. Not only you, even the bystanders can record the video if they see that the injustice is happening, or for the purpose of evidence, even they can record the videos. Nowadays, before you start recording video, the police officers will start recording video from his mobile. Now that is his right. Now, while you record your video, make sure you do not create unnecessary problem for yourself by not arguing politely or expressing your anger against them. The video will be used as an important evidence in the court of law tomorrow. If things get escalated, only the evidence which you record will help you tomorrow in the court of law. So when you record your evidence, just turn on your camera and ask whatever the doubts you have and whatever the problems that officer is creating, narrate that incidents, and do not engage in any kind of fight with the officers. It will only favor the officers, not you. The facts of the circumstances, what's happening at that time, can be only be proved by way of an evidence. Tomorrow, if you are going to file a complaint against a police officer, this evidence is a very crucial part. Now, let me answer the another important question of this video. How do you file complaint against such corrupt officers? Now, you have the following options. One thing you can do right then and there is collect the evidence first, then just dial on 100 and file a report against such officer. Also, what you can do is to report this incident to his superior authorities, or just write a letter to the SP of the district or the city. Write a letter narrating the whole incident and attach the evidence copies and send it to the SP office of the district or that city. You can also email these letters and documents to the SP. Now, another way to file a complaint is filing a complaint to the Police Complaint Authority. In case of Prakash Singh versus Union of India, in 2006, the Supreme Court order stated that the state should form an institution called Police Complaint Authority. Now, this institution will look into the matter of corrupt officers, will investigate on such matters, will investigate on the complaint received by various citizens who were harassed by the police officers or who were not fulfilling their duty properly, and will submit a report against them. Now, another thing what you can do is, once you file this report and if you don't get any proper response after this, you can file a RTI asking for the status report on the complaint. Now, within 30 days, you should get a response regarding your complaint. Now, if you don't want to go all this trouble, you can just visit a lawyer. and provide him with the relevant evidences, and he can just file a private complaint under section 200 of CRPC to the nearest magistrate. Let me also clear few other questions which I constantly hear. Can the traffic police officer take out your key from your vehicle? The answer is no. The officer has no right to do such thing. He cannot even open the door of your car and ask you to step out. Another comment which I usually hear is, what if the traffic police officer itself is not following the rules? And people generally says that, see, the traffic cop is not wearing a helmet, they are not following the rules. The rules is only for the citizens. Now let me tell you that under section 210B of the Motor Vehicles Act, it states that if the enforcing authority itself is violating the law, the enforcing authority means the traffic police officer itself is violating the law, then he shall pay twice the amount of fine that what a normal citizen would pay. That is, if he is not having a driving license, the offense for normal people is 5,000. The penalty for normal people is 5,000. For him, it is the twice the amount, that is 1,000. If he is not wearing a helmet, he will have to pay twice the amount, that is 2,000 rupees. Now we are at the end part of this video. Now I would like to explain one very important section in the Motor Vehicles Act. That is section 134A, which says protection of good Samaritans. What is the meaning of good Samaritans? The act states that a good Samaritan is a person who in a good faith voluntarily helps the accident victim. Now it is common that we witness a lot of accidents happening on the roads, and instead of helping the accident victim, we just go away, or worst, we instead start recording the accident. There's a misconception among the public that if you help the accident victim, the police will unnecessarily drag you to file an accident case. He will call you to be a witness in this case, he will call you to the court, he will call you to the police station, or if you take the accident victim to the hospital in charge will ask you to pay the money. So these are the misconceptions. Now let me just tell you, under the protection of good Samaritan law, the person who helps the victim will not be liable for any civil or criminal liability. In case while taking the victim to the hospital, if the victim dies, the person who is taking him to the hospital will not be liable, and the person who is taking the accident victim to the hospital will not be asked to pay any money. The law also gives the provisions that the good Samaritan, if he wants, he can also deny to give his personal details to the hospital or the police officer. The good Samaritan will not be harassed in any way by any authority, be it police officer or the hospital staff. Now recently the central government has started an initiative where the government decided to award these good Samaritans rupees 5,000 for the help they provided to the accident victim. Next time you witness any accident, do not waste any time, do not think about any legal actions, do not think about any harassment. Now just take the accident victim to the nearest hospital, or just call to the emergency service number, that is, call the ambulance or call the police officer, inform about the accident. If you have your own vehicle with you, take the accident victim in your own vehicle and take the victim to the hospital as early as possible. Again, I am repeating, you don't have to worry about anything. You have the liberty to not give your personal details as well. And in case if they harass you on that, you can file a complaint against such officer to the district magistrate, and disciplinary actions will be taken against such officers. And when the next time you drive your vehicle, make sure you remember these rules, make sure you remember your rights. Moreover, make sure you remember your duties. If you are in violation, make sure you step up and pay the fine, and do not engage in an ugly argument with any police officer. It is of no use. Rather, collect the evidence and file the complaint in the appropriate institutions. I hope this video helps you. I hope you like this video. This is my very first video on this legal topic. If you want me to make videos on any other particular legal topic, you can drop your suggestions in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe. If you like the video, hit like, and if you dislike the video, feel free to dislike it. I'm Shazib Tanveer, signing off.